Hello, I'm Nigel Morris of Nigel Morris Coaching, and I would like to talk a bit about organisations and how they can affect people psychologically. I have a background in occupational mental health that I gained for many years working in the British Army, and I'd like to bring some of my knowledge and experience to bear on the subject. Is this you on Monday mornings? Is this you on the first Monday back after a period of annual leave? Full of dread at the thought of opening the emails? Totally overwhelmed by what is contained within those emails? People have read your out of office sign and have still sent emails with a sense of urgency attached to them, wanting action on those emails, wanting information like yesterday, and the whole feeling is totally overwhelming. You feel trapped. You feel a victim of circumstance. You've absolutely had enough. And to boot, because you were feeling stressed by the prospect of this, you were like a bear with a sore head before you went out through the door, inflicting your stress and anxiety on those around you in the household, probably kicking the cat on the way out before getting in the car or before going off on your Monday commute to the office. I always liken the feeling to being like Tom Hanks on Omaha Beach, totally overwhelmed, totally out of control, feeling depersonalized. The depersonalization is best illustrated by the scene where everything goes quiet, there's no sound, and you can just see what Tom Hanks, or the character he is playing, Captain Miller, is thinking. He is thinking, what am I doing here? How am I ever going to get through this? How am I ever going to get out of this situation? How am I ever going to achieve the demands that are placed upon me? And in addition, we have that no sense of personal achievement in the workplace. If you can identify with anything that I've just said, it's possible that you're suffering from burnout, which is a state of mind. It was defined by Maslach in seminal research in 1981, who identified three main contributing factors. So it's excessive workload and a lack of control by the individual over that workload, and no recognition for the demands that is placed on the individual by superiors or by the organisation. A few years before this, Martin Seligman in 1972 came up with the theory of learned helplessness. In an experiment with a dog in a cage with an electrified floor, research that probably wouldn't pass the ethics committee today, a dog was placed in a cage and one half of the floor was electrified. A current was passed through the half that was electrified, and the dog learned to avoid the unpleasant sensation by jumping into the other half of the cage that was free from electric shocks. Once the experimenters were satisfied that the dog had learned how to avoid the unpleasant stimuli, they then electrified both parts of the floor of the cage. So the dog, when it jumped into what it thought was going to be a side of the cage free from the unpleasant stimulus, it found that it experienced the same, and then thinking, maybe I have got it wrong, maybe if I jump back to the other side, maybe I will be free from the electric shocks there. However, this wasn't the case, and the poor animal didn't know what to do, and eventually the poor dog just gave up and sat and took the shocks again and again and again. And in a way, this is replicated in organisations when people feel they have no control over their situation. They behave in a helpless manner, and this inaction also sort of creates a tunnel vision in which people fail to see opportunities and grasp opportunities that might afford some relief within that organisation, or maybe to change totally. Again, further research more recently by Khabib et al. In 2020 found that such inescapable and uncontrollable stress fosters a dysfunctional plasticity within the learning circuits of the brain. In this research, two groups were identified: those who target the stressor, problem focused, and those who target the emotional arousal that sustains the response, emotional focused. The second group, and I'm sure we can all identify with them, are the people who address symptoms rather than root cause. And I think we've all been there at some stage or another. You know, thank God it's Friday, thank God it's wine o'clock on Friday, thank God it's gin and tonic o'clock, thank God it's a shot of bourbon o'clock, or whatever the poison is. And there is some advantage to this. I don't wish people to feel that they are totally negative if they are in this group. It avoids wasting precious energy going down dead ends. You conserve your energy until a cast iron way out is discovered, and then you take it. Now, it may not be the most efficient way of escaping that Monday morning feeling, but there are some advantages, as I've said, to adopting that attitude. So, what would you like instead? Yeah, being in control is the big one. You know, feeling that you're making a positive difference, feeling you are an agent of change within your organisation, being motivated, energized, and regain a sense of enthusiasm. I mean, we don't start off in a state of apathy. We enter the workplace feeling that we have something to contribute, something that would be appreciated by our peers and superiors. We don't think, oh God. We want to feel we are achieving for ourselves, for the organisation, for our peers. And being able to regain that is something that I think is important to most of us. Good news, help is available. And we can take sort of 5 steps, 5 easy steps that will accumulate into a great big action plan. So the sum of the whole is greater than the constitutional parts. I mean, the first thing to do is create ideal conditions to change the brain, and we've seen in the research by Khabib that plasticity means that we are able to affect change in the brain. If we can affect it negatively by adverse organisational circumstances, we can do something to affect it positively. Part of that process is being more mindful and developing self-awareness. And with that will come some emotional regulation that I'll talk about. When we're in a state of burnout and feeling depressed, we tend to react to situations, and we react emotionally. We overreact, in other words. And when we're overreacting and in a state of hyper-arousal, our brain switches off. We're in fight or flight mode, and we're not being rational human beings. When we can control our responses, when we can cultivate a space between the stimulus and the response. In that space we can then foster some creativity, and this should enable us to see the bigger picture. Mandalesi et al. In 2018 has carried out research that shows that physical exercise, particularly cardio exercise, protects against neurodegeneration and positively influences brain plasticity. So this is the opposite to the Khabib study. It shows that we can change positively, and that is within our power. For many years now, exercise has been prescribed to treat mild to moderate depression, and has shown that it has a positive effect on mild to moderate depression. Warning though that any exercise program will be tailored on an individual basis, and if anybody's in any doubt, please seek medical advice. The next is mindfulness, and there's a lot of different ways of achieving mindfulness, but the premise is the same whichever tried and tested route that you take. Mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we are doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. And that's a definition that I got off the internet at mindful.org. For me, I've found that meditation apps have helped. Headspace. I've again looked at different websites. Wim Hof's breathing exercises are very good to bring you into the body, to give you that sense of where you are in space and time and environment. And then there are a plethora of books that you can pick up. I mean, one that I cite here is Practical Meditation by Giovanni Dienstmann. These are all really useful ways of accessing mindfulness. My personal favourite is weights in the gym, and I'm not just talking about powerlifting, because I am not a powerlifter. It is kettlebell weights, and just maintaining the pose with those, and making sure the body is ordered and everything is stacked correctly to take the weight using the least amount of energy. And while I'm focused on that, the brain chatter of the day, the brain chatter of the week, or whatever goes. I'm totally focused on the body and the task of the body to support the weight, whether that may focus my breathing, ordering the limbs, my structure, my posture. That just pushes all the other stuff away. It gives me some clarity. Now, with emotional regulation, people tend to fall into two categories, and that is the reactive and the proactive. Again, I borrowed this exercise from Stephen Covey. And the outer circle are where we would put things that concern us. It is the area of concern, and these are things that we have no control over. The price of fish, what others think about us, the mistakes others have made, news stories, politics, economics, COVID-19. We have no control over that, and yet we're concerned. And the reactive person will spend their time psychologically, this is, in that circle, totally reacting, totally unfocused on what they can do. Whereas the proactive person spends their time in the inner circle. This is the circle of control. These are the things that people have a direct control over and that they can do for themselves. And these are the things that we've discussed up to this point as well. You know, becoming physically fitter, education, our attitude to life, to work, family, hobbies. These are all things that we can directly control. Further education, learning new skills, and as we learn new skills, as we delve into further education, we become more empowered, so that that inner circle grows and pushes into the outer circle. We have more control, we have more options. When we have new education and new skill sets, we are empowered to market ourselves. We can market ourselves where we perhaps couldn't market ourselves previously. That is the way out. These things make a real difference, and these are the things that we have control over. Not the outer circle, not what your boss thinks about you, not what your workmates think about you, not the mistakes that other people in the office have made that have adversely affected you. These are the things to focus on. Covey was inspired by Viktor Frankl, who was an Austrian psychiatrist who was in the camps, the death camps, during the war. And Viktor Frankl found that absolutely everything was stripped away from him. The autonomy was gone in many, many ways. And people adopted a shell of apathy as a defense mechanism, a bit like Marty Seligman's dog. They just gave up. However, what got him through was the realization that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And Frankl cited people in the camps who, instead of being totally apathetic, gave sympathy to their peers who were suffering, gave the last piece of bread to peers who were suffering from hunger. And that was a choice they made. They chose not to be totally degraded by a degrading system. And that is something we can all take away. I mean, okay, being a little bit fed up at work is not quite the same as being in the death camps, but the principle still holds true. You know, we choose not to be degraded by a system that degrades us. We choose our own way, whether we are going to be the vehicle of changing that system or whether we get out of that system and find something else. We choose, and we always have that choice, and nobody can take that away from us. And when we realise this, we can start thinking more creatively. And I'm reminded of the quote here, attributed to Albert Einstein, although there's some debate as to whether he said it. But I think he should have said it, and probably did. And that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result every time. Now, we get trapped in the psychic prison, as Gareth Morgan called it, the psychic prison of our organisation, to the point where we can't think or perceive of ourselves outside of it, or in another guise. We go on as if in a somnambulant way, asleep, and not awake to the opportunities that are out there. If only we could wake up. It's almost like we become totally absorbed. We are our job. The writer William Burroughs put it more succinctly when he spoke about an agent who had totally merged with his cover story, so he didn't know what was the cover story or what was his real reality. They were just so mixed, and what we need to do is separate the person from the cover story, the person from the job. And when we do that, we can foster creativity. And when we can think more creatively, we can see the bigger picture. We can see the options that are there for the taking. A whole new vista of opportunity will open up before us if we can be just shaken awake and see it. And after that, how do you feel? More in control, energized, attracting the right attention, confident in who you are, sharp and empowered. What does Monday morning look like now? Stimulating. You feel you have the ability to control systems. You are the agent of change within your organization. You have freedom to act, working for promotion or a career move. The promotion will enable you to change the organization, or the move will help you to find that niche where you feel more energized and satisfied. What do you have? A sense of freedom. Freedom is a state of mind, and it's acquiring that state of mind that is important, that will help you make decisions, review your options, and hopefully lead to a better life. If you find that interesting, please feel free to contact me on the website, and I look forward to hearing from you.